The old and action.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Board of Education Policy Committee meeting, or subcommittee meeting, on March 8th, 2022. And there's Mr. White. Excellent. Ms. Jasinski, please call the roll.
Sure. Mr. Grippo.
Here.
Ms. Rosenberg.
Here.
Mr. White.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Great. All rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I've lost my touch. Forgot to turn the camera off while I stand up and all that.
So it's funny how quickly we fall out of practice with the remote meeting, right?
I was like, yeah. Okay. So, Dr. Solon, is there any public comment this evening via email or otherwise?
There's not.
Okay. We'll move on to the first item on our agenda, which is personnel non-discrimination. Looks like this is a discussion topic. And,
yeah, this is I want to just confirm. Can you guys see the policy on your screen?
Yes.
Okay, because I think I had an issue with that. It was showing up in the last remote meeting. It was showing up on the YouTube video, but not on your screen. So I think I've resolved that. Basically, this is an update that we're just making here. It's really about age discrimination. It's already in the law. It's something that we practice, but it's not written in our policy. And this is just a recommendation based on that, everything you see in the gray there, indicating that recognizing that it's a discriminatory practice to request or require on an initial employment application prospective employees' age, date of birth, dates of attendance, graduation, etc. On the initial employment application, unless there's a bona fide occupational qualification or need, when such information is required to comply with any provision of state or federal law. So, we don't ask people to provide their age or when dates of graduation or whatever, but you are required to demonstrate that you have graduated from college, let's say, if you're going to be a teacher. So we do require transcripts and things like that, but we don't require dates of birth, things like that. So this is, I think, relatively straightforward.
I know that for the state of Connecticut, as part of sort of recognizing ageism, I guess, that they have stopped collecting resumes as part of the initial interview process. Is that something that our school system does as well, since it would have an employment history in there, or anything like that?
Applicants can still upload a resume, but it doesn't require that it indicates the dates of starting and finishing or whatever like that. We do have that. It said, upon initial application, but, to verify employment, we're required by law to reach out to, when we do hire somebody, other places to confirm, that there haven't been any DCF issues or anything like that. So upon the initial review, people can submit information that doesn't include dates. Should include things like years of service. So you might indicate that you've worked for 3 years at XYZ school, but just not, I graduated college in 1998, and this is when I began teaching here for 4 years and there for 3 years, stuff like that.
Gotcha. Okay. Tim, go ahead.
Yeah. So, I mean, age discrimination is a bad thing. And we have to comply with the law.
Right.
And whatever we can do to reduce age discrimination, and this is not a reflection on the Chester Public Schools at all,
Sure.
but the reality is people are, when you end up seeing, like, getting down in the interview process, you're looking at experience, people are going to have some idea of your age. I wish it wasn't a factor, or was never a factor when people were, hiring, just based more on experience. But I do believe that it probably is. So, taking this, I mean, I feel like this is a relatively minor step, a small step. It makes sense to me, both in doing the right thing and also complying with the law.
Yeah. I know for those of us in this meeting, people are shocked to find out how old we are because we look so great. But anything we can do to take that out is good. It's great when I could hear Carol laughing in the other room. That's not good. Anyway. All right. Any other questions on that?
Not seeing any.
Good policy. Okay. The second one we had up really more or less for, I think, discussion sake. Let me pull this up here.
Yeah, I forgot that this was a bylaw, not a
not a board
policy.
Yeah, but I think this is one of those things where we've had several conversations throughout the pandemic, really, about the idea of continuing remote meetings. For a lot of members of the community, it's easy to participate. For members of the board or prospective members of the board, Tim's pointed out that could be easier for them to participate. But right now, that is only available through April 30th. Legislatively, it could potentially be extended, the remote meeting component. They do, talk about the idea of an electronic meeting where people could call in. It's kind of unique.
Yeah, I mean, my thought was for if we're able to do this, so it would take an act of legislation to be able to continue this beyond April 30th.
That's the way I understand it. And Carol, correct me if I'm wrong there, because I know you've talked to Cave about this as well. But at this point in time, the capacity for us to meet remotely expires on April 30th.
Okay. Yeah, and I think I've expressed this before. And my thought on this isn't necessarily for our business meetings where the public tends to show up more often, as we know. This is more because all the subcommittees are much more detail oriented, that you can have, like, this is a good way to be able to record presentations, especially like for curriculum. Especially curriculum seems to do a lot of in-depth presentations, and we just had one a few meetings ago, but more usually more for curriculum. But it's good to have those on, a video where the audio is good and you can see the slides and stuff without having a camera off in the distance pointed at a screen or a TV or something. Instead, you have that more of a direct feed type situation when you're able to do this. So I don't know, that was my thought. So I guess we need to reach out to our legislators, and see what we can do there. Because we really can't take any action because there would be no legislation behind it, right?
Right.
We would have no authority.
Right.
Okay. Tim. Tim first. Go ahead.
So Carol or Jeff or anybody here, are there any legislators who have A, introduced legislation on this, and B, actually advocating for it? Or is this just go away on April 30th?
Not that I've heard of, and I think it's grounded in the fact that, within Cheshire, we have the luxury of the vast majority of our populace having access to technology and being able to participate in that way. Whereas outside of Cheshire, it's not got the same degree of access for the community to be able to participate. So I think, if it was really only Cheshire that had to worry about it, I think there'd be a lot more interest and flexibility in that option. But, I think if you're looking at it as a statewide scale, there's not the same sort of investment.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I'm just thinking out loud in that, just from a business practice standpoint. So when I do remotes with my staff, I have that option, right? So it just seems so archaic for us to have this ability and not be able to utilize it. Just best practices, really, access to meetings, like Adam said, for the public and so forth. So I'm just, along with Tim, just need to know, how do we get this to even move to change in a sense?
I'm wondering if, just like you were just kind of throwing it out there, I'm just kind of throwing it out there that, for example, this evening, obviously I'm in my office, Carol's at the office, providing like a public viewing area would suffice. We could have this on the board in a public room where people could come see it, and ask questions if they wanted or whatever. I kind of feel like that would satisfy that issue about public access. Maybe that's worth bringing up.
Okay. It just, when I was in the corporate world, we had video presentations, conference calls and so forth. So why can't we use this practice in education as well to kind of streamline things?
The wrinkle there is, I think, public access to this and being able to guarantee that. And I think, the idea that it was just floating out there does provide public access. You could come here and watch the meeting or wherever that may be, if you don't have digital access. The same way you would come to, our Humiston office to watch the meeting if you were in person.
Right.
Except you'd be looking at a large screen of us interacting with each other and the content. And still, to Adam's point, still be able to see it very well. And so, maybe that's a possibility that we could pursue that idea.
Because I think the lever for us allowing us to do this, the governor must have suspended some sort of FOIA requirement. Is that
right?
What he did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if not, we would be in violation.
Order and the state, permitted that through the 30th, because obviously, particularly early in the pandemic, nobody could really come together. So this was their workaround. But with the pandemic waning, I think they're thinking of doing away with it. But I don't think we're alone. Obviously, the three of you see the value in it. I'm sure other board members do, and other commissions and committees across Connecticut. So, maybe there is room for this.
Yeah. All right. So we'll have to reach out then. Tim, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just to put this out there, access is really important. I really do believe that, people having the ability to come to meetings or to voice their concerns directly to elected officials. I think it was probably 10 years ago, I saw a study where at that moment in time, 40% of US households had already disconnected from their landlines because they had cell phones.
Right.
That's not everybody by any means, but cell phones are ubiquitous, not just in Cheshire, but around the state, frankly, around the country. I don't know the percentage of homes or individuals that have them. I'm sure it's not 100%. There are people who don't want them, cannot afford them. There's definitely those things, those situations that exist in life, but many, many people have cell phones where they could just come right into a meeting that way if we could figure out the access. But I just want to point out that, for years, I've heard people who have night jobs who get frustrated because they cannot attend a meeting. It's never been perfect. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking to be reasonable and make a good faith effort at providing access to everybody, recognizing that there are certain things hurdles that, you just can't overcome. So that's my 2 cents. I think it would be really valuable to allow remote meetings to continue. That's it.
Carol just put something in the comments. Let's see.
Okay.
Connecticut Advisory Commission on Intergovernmental Relations will conduct the study and issue a report by February 1.
I'm assuming it's 23, Carol?
Yeah.
So 22. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Findings.
Yeah, I think that's a typo.
I mean, there's obviously
Okay.
we could write a letter to that Connecticut Advisory Commission on Intergovernmental Relations. Pursue that.
Right. They're
But
not
it-
asked. Have they asked us for feedback?
Not yet. I guess that's going to happen after April 30th.
But that pretty much, this shuts us down for at least a year then, or more. If it's February 1, that's for next session. And then,
Right.
what happens after that. So, all right.
They
Well,
also-
I guess,
Yeah, they also do mention CABE in their article, so I'm sure CABE is going to be. It says it's adapted from an article written by CABE, so we can check with CABE too.
okay.
It's just that we have the opportunity. We're in 21st century, and we're not utilizing the 21st century tools here to our, the best to our capacity. So
Right.
Yeah.
it's
And while-
frustrating. And
Yeah,
Fair
and
enough,
to Tim's point too, the in-person meeting may expand some access. The remote meeting expands access too to a lot of people. So it's something definitely worth keeping our eye on and trying to influence.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it would be much more powerful if you wanted to attend virtually. So if we had a queue where someone could ask a question virtually, I think that would really solve a lot of problems, because that's always one of the major concern, right? Is it like if I knew we were going to have a controversial meeting, I wouldn't have it virtually to allow people to have it come and have their public say, because I wouldn't want the appearance of, well, we're hiding behind our screens. We don't want to face the public. And that's never really, that's certainly
Right.
never our intention. Well, hopefully we'll get this all hashed out, I suppose.
Yeah, but like tonight, we weren't anticipating a huge pro-ageism crowd.
No.
All right, so the next item up for bid here are second readings of items that we've seen in the past. One is around community relations, parent involvement. Can you see that one?
No,
No, it's
I can
because
see the
it's because
the
I'm-
agenda.
There we go, because I'm sharing a tab and not the window. Okay.
Here we go.
All right, so this is the parent involvement and communications. This is some of the adjustments we've made, just updating this policy.
Right, this is where we added birth to 3 instructors.
No,
Is that
that's
that
in
one?
the special ed policy. That's the last one we're
Okay.
going to talk about. Really, this is modified mostly because this part I'm highlighting in blue was a legal requirement. To, ironically, after the last conversation, we need to allow families to participate in person or, through conferencing platforms. I mean, like Sam was saying, it's kind of the shift in the way the world it works right now. And, as you've all referenced, the convenience factor for a parent to drive to a school on a cold, February night or whatever, find parking, drag yourself in for 15 minutes versus I'm just going to walk in the room next door, worry about babysitters and all that other business. But I could just walk in the room next door and have a quick conversation with my child's teacher is way more convenient.
Yeah.
So I'm, we've been offering remote versus in-person options for conferences, and it's really successful. So that was just statutorily changed that we add that component into this piece. This is also statutory. If we have another pandemic, God forbid, that lasts more than 3 weeks, more than 3 consecutive, that we need to add additional parent conference opportunities. Let's hope that we never come to that. So again, this number 11 is if we're providing remote learning for a period of 3 consecutive weeks or more, we have to find a secondary contact person. And then 12 is implications if you can't contact somebody in 11. And then we have to hand information out developed by the state about the emotional safety, mental health, food insecurity resources. And I believe that's, again, during the pandemic, because the state has not provided us anything at this point.
Sam, you raised your hand.
Dr. Stone, does it have to, I'm just trying to read that again. So as far as communication, do they specify what type for the 3? Or could I just mail 3 letters or 3 emails or, you know what I mean? Or
so after 3, are you referencing the fact that after 3 consecutive weeks of remote learning, we have
for the
to,
additional? Yeah.
yeah, like, I haven't had a lot of information. We haven't received any information from the state about what to do when we engage in our next pandemic and have to go to, remote learning for 3 weeks on end. There really is not a lot of clarity around that. The law was crafted, but there's not really a lot of direction around that. I think, we have a pretty strong track record when we moved to the pandemic of communicating with families and providing access. And I think our parents did a tremendous job of making sure that there was great communication. It was obviously reciprocal. So, I haven't really dove much into what's required if we encounter our next pandemic. And I don't think the state has either to that point.
Well, at least we have some best practices already.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just thinking of process, and if there needs to be specific, like the first point of contact would be the phone call, the second would be a letter, and the third would be,
Right. Well, it's interesting with the adjustment we made during the pandemic to Parent Square. And again, going back to Tim's point about the cell phones, if you have the Parent Square app, chances are we're going to get to you. I mean, the notifications are great. I have it as a parent myself, and so you'll get alerts on your phone, you'll get emails, you can get text messages if you want. So it's there's really no reason that you couldn't be contacted now if you wanted to be.
That's a good thing, because I just realized that I don't have the Parent Square app on my phone, and I think I want to get it
Yeah.
now, because
That's great.
I've just been using the emails and the links, and I'm like, you know what? Like, we're just scheduling parent-teacher conferences, and like I must have missed a notification,
Right.
and it's like, I think maybe I should have that app, but I'm not sure where to get it. Like, I guess I go out onto the App Store and just
Yep.
type in Parent Square, and there it is. Okay, so
It's a great reminder, Adam. So I look at the email, but then like later on in the evening, I get the ping from the Parent Square notice, and I'm like,
yeah,
make
that'd
sure.
be nice to have that notification. So I'm going to do that after this meeting, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it is definitely very effective in terms of, engaging families and schools in two-way communication. So that's why we went to it. Had a lot of positive feedback around it.
What's the percentage of those that may not have,
Off the top of my head, I don't have that data. It's definitely something. I mean, Carol, if you want to make a note of that, we could pull that.
just to see how we're gauging? And I'm assuming the majority of people have email, but then again, there's got to be a small population that doesn't deal in electronics at all, and therefore, how do we reach families?
Right. Yeah, we'll pull that data and see what I'm curious. Just as you raise the question, what is the number of? I mean, almost all of our families have some form of email communication. Those that don't have a phone number listed for their children. So, and you obviously want to be able to have the school get in touch with you if there's an issue with your child. So,
is there a part in Parent Square that you can see the timestamp? So if I received the ping on my phone, but I didn't open it, or you would know whether or not I opened the notice. You know what I mean? I know it's getting down to.
Yeah, I'll ask Carol. That's another question we can ask. I mean, we could have. It is related to this policy. I could have Scott Conway, one of our technology specialists. He could come on, and give a quick 10-minute overview of Parent Square for you. How we use it, how it would tie into this, or whatever. If you'd like to do that, we could arrange that for the next meeting. It's a perfect last remote meeting to be able to show that on the screen.
Go out with a great presentation.
Yeah, go out with a bang.
What the data is in the background, like we're using this tool, and therefore, we're sending out these notices, but are parents actually opening it up, the notifications that are being sent?
Sure. I don't know, as I said, if we can identify that or not. I do know, we know if report cards are open, like if you look at your child's report card or not. I mean, you can only take so much away from that, because with Power School, you get, regular updates or whatever. So, but we do know if that's opened, because we want to make sure that the design that we're using, the information we're sharing, is valuable to people. If you're not opening it, it may not be all that valuable. So, but we can line up Scott for the next meeting.
Just for clarity, Power School is different from Parent Square. It is a different system, correct?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
Parent Square is pretty exclusively communication, whereas Power School is our student information management software. So most of our families are familiar with that through either grades or filling out forms at the beginning of the year, confirming your demographic information, like we were saying with the emails and phone numbers and things, your address, to make sure that we're able to provide timely communication to you. So that's all in there. Your busing information, and it's got a lot of great information in Power School as well.
Dr. Solon, can you just go back up? I know we scratched 2. What the rationale was on 2? Was it to scratch that and to just have clearer language down at the bottom?
Yeah, let me just make sure I pull this up.
The two-way communication.
Yeah, I deleted that line in favor of a more comprehensive line.
Oh, okay, so you, line 3, then you replaced it with a new line
Yeah,
3.
so I cut out line 3 and, kind of replaced it with line 8.
Got it. Okay.
That was more comprehensive.
Yep. Thank you.
Sure.
Any additional comments on this policy? Okay, we'll move on.
So the next item is, excuse me, I clicked the wrong one. Or was it linked? There we go. Yep. The next item was our graduation. So this was an error here where it said our graduation date can be set no more than the 185th. It's actually the 180th day. So I think we talked about this last time, but if you start school at the beginning of the year and you have that graduation day is, let's say the 180th day of school is June 15th. You can't go through the year and decide all of a sudden we're going to make school the last day of school, graduation day is now June 13th, because that's only 178 school days from the beginning of the year. It's got to be June 15th or later. And you can set that as of April 1st each year. That way, if you have something that happens after April 1st, like we've unfortunately experienced, hurricanes and stuff, tornadoes even in the past, where you can then keep that same date that you've already established and not have to bump it because you haven't met 180 days. It's great for seniors and their families.
Sam, you had your hand raised?
Yeah, I was just going to ask that because in the district where I work in, we did set a definite graduation date. And so I don't know if there was conversation in the past about doing something like that for us here.
Yes, I mean, the statute says as of April 1st, you can establish that date. We're not there yet, but because especially looking at tomorrow's forecast, but I'm thinking that we will set one on April 1st. No joke. Thanks for picking up on that one, guys.
Yeah, got it.
Tough crowd.
I'm not a fool. No joke.
Exactly. So yeah, on April 1st, I'm sure we'll be setting their graduation date and make it much easier for parents and families to plan on that really exciting day. The other item that is updated in here is around student success plans, and it's this language here in gray was added that the student success plans, it's really a long explorative process that our guidance department kind of pivots this. The school counselors will meet with kids, provide interest inventories and things like that in the middle grades as they start to think about what might I want to take when it comes to electives, what might my interests be. It's really exploratory. Obviously, as we work, as kids matriculate through the years toward graduation, toward the end of that graduation process, we're looking over the last several years about what your interests were, what courses you took to help you determine after high school what might be of interest to you, ranging from college to military service to community service, or 2-year colleges, trade schools. I mean, it runs the gamut, but it's really a process that starts through. And the one wrinkle that was added here is that to the the student success plan shall, to the extent it does not conflict with career choices of the student or his or her parent guardian, include an academic plan that is compliant with the board's challenging curriculum policy. So, I may want to be a juggler when I graduate high school, but I can't graduate from Cheshire High School only taking juggling classes. So we have to try and align the graduation requirements to the greatest extent possible with your plan.
That's what college is for.
Yes, that's the juggling.
The juggling and the history of juggling, the juggling arts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think this is related. You had handed at our last board meeting, our business meeting, you had handed out, I think it was the last one, the packet of
Yes.
and of the career
Guidance.
I guess, career,
Yeah.
career guidance. And I had brought that home for my son who's in 5th grade, and even then he was looking at it, and it really sort of helped him focus a little bit because he got to see the types of classes that you can take as you go further down the road, and it seemed to pique his interest a little bit on future pick. He's at 5th grade, he's all over the place, and at least he got to see there was, I don't know, there was like maybe 15 different or more careers in there or career paths in there that he got to be able to look through. So
And that's
really
okay
well
to be
done.
all over the place. I know a lot of adults that are still all over the place.
Sure.
I think what our goal is, I think there's perhaps a misperception that because so many of our kids pursue a 4-year college experience after high school, that's all they can do through our school system. And I think that document that Marlene shared really dispels that myth and illustrates that there are a lot of things that you can explore within our school system, and we strongly encourage families to do that. We just continuing. I know Marlene was talking to the folks at Marion Manufacturing about connecting in there. I've had conversations with Jason Vianese at Richard Chevrolet about the fact that they're expanding their service center and they're desperate for mechanics. Those exist, but we just don't have the volume of students. So, like I said, the vast majority do pursue a 4-year, and that's okay too. We're not saying you shouldn't be doing that because Richard Chevy needs mechanics. If this is what you want to do, then you should do that. The 4-year institution. So I've had a number of people, Adam, say that document was really nice and really beneficial and informative. So, Carol, maybe we can have a conversation with Marlene about putting that on our website too, or at least on the CHS website, if no place else.
One last comment, and I know this is kind of related to this policy. At least I think part of this policy actually breaches this, but because we had spent so much time on it, was the capstone course for graduation. I was kind of wondering, I think this year was supposed to be the first year where we were beginning that, and I was wondering how it was going.
Yeah, it's going really well. I think all school systems are trying to feel out how we make sure that all of our students get through this and have it be meaningful. I could just give you a simple hurdle to cross and just, all right, we'll call it a day. But we don't want to waste kids' time and their families and our staff's time. We want it to be meaningful experiences for kids. So, that's what our focus has been. How do we connect with students and make it more meaningful? Next year, we're working through the high school schedule to be able to provide. Right now, we have, windows of time for advisory opportunities. We're looking at expanding some of those periodically to provide students opportunities to connect with staff and others around their portfolio project. Additionally, for sophomores, we're providing all sophomores access to teen mental health first aid. So kind of demystifies and destigmatizes mental health issues. It will provide students access to coaching around if you know, or if you're having a mental health issue, where do I turn? How do I know, kind of thing. And then, like I said, with the other, the portfolio project, that time will be built in. So we're looking to leverage that for kids and make sure that it's a meaningful experience.
Fantastic. Sam?
Yeah, I do have to say I appreciate the differentiation that goes into, not all kids are passionate about a certain thing. And so I like the flexibility that's built in currently already. And I'll speak for my own child who doesn't have a project in mind and is not that passionate, but can go into that elective course where they'll be able to at least guide her through that. So I do appreciate that from a parent perspective. But going back isn't Naviance the biggest driver of the student portfolio there?
Yeah, that's where all of that is.
Or do we have something else beyond that?
Yeah, no, Naviance is where we catalog all of the, the interest inventories, and then it's also a great resource as kids start to explore college and careers. It's a platform that's got all that already built in. The state provided that years ago to districts, and we just hung on to it.
And it starts in 6th grade, because I know when I was a 6th grade teacher, that's where we started the process, basically. Nothing earlier than that.
No. I mean, I think, in basic elementary education, there is exploration of careers, right? Like, I was just reading to students at Chapman the other day. It's called Chewy Louie, about a puppy who basically eats everything in sight. And we talked about what a veterinarian is, and so like, that sort of exploration is naturally occurring at the elementary grades. And then 6th grade, we start to look at the connection between the fact that, oh, geez, I have interests and things that I enjoy, and how could that potentially be connected to the world of work? And that's probably where most kids naturally develop that desire to one day grow up and be a superintendent of schools. Very natural.
Okay, any additional comment on this?
Dr. Phil.
What's that?
I said they're thinking of what would Dr. Solon do in this situation.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. I would zig if you think I'm going to zag. That's probably good life advice. But anyway, so that's our graduation requirement stuff. Pretty straightforward again. The next item is can you guys see the policy agenda? I hope.
Yes.
Sorry.
See the agenda,
that.
yeah.
Trying to make sure I do this right and not screw up the broadcasting either. So our grading system. This is basically the fact that we have a weighted grading system. If you look in our student curriculum guide, the course selection guide was just recently, well, not that recently, I guess it's already March. It went out in the late fall, and students select courses. In there is an outline of courses and what their weighting is. So we, include that. I think students and parents appreciate that. It's a way for colleges to identify the level of rigor inherent in a student's, their experience. So this is the language that we've been directed to add through the policy review to our policy board policy book.
Any comments on this language? Oh, Sam, go ahead.
I was just thinking out loud. Because some of the colleges are test optional now. This becomes an even bigger emphasis for kids, I would think. I don't know if you've heard anything, Dr. Solon, but even the Harvards of the world are test optional. So therefore, they're looking even more so on weighted grades.
Right. So in an environment where certainly during the pandemic, test optional was very popular. That I think from conversations I've had with different folks is kind of waning a little bit. That some schools are going back because the standardized test is the easiest apples to apples comparison. But it doesn't mean, I mean, a tremendous number of schools are test optional now that weren't in the past, like you said, Harvard even. The transcript, to your point, becomes a really important component then of your application if you're interested in a 4-year university. So the weighting is an important part of that, no doubt, because they're looking to see the level of rigor that you engaged in which classes you did that, how that ties to what you might be applying to. So absolutely, indeed, an important part.
Sam, did you have additional comment? I saw your hand go up again. Is that?
No, I don't know. My platform's like a little wonky right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
a little glitchy.
All right. I have no further comment. Tim, do you have any comment? Okay. I think we're good.
Okay. Moving on to the next one. Fafsa completion. I know there were some questions about this at the board meeting, and I shared with you there that Cheshire High School was actually honored by the state for our high level of FAFSA completion. That the governor on February 4th of this year proposed legislation that would require all graduating students to apply through a simpler, like scaled down FAFSA. And you can fill out a form to opt out of that. So it's not required for all students. I mean, you don't have to, but I think what they were finding is that a significant number of people were not completing FAFSA forms and missing out on up to hundreds of thousands of dollars in aid, and certainly in the tens of thousands. And, that's obviously a tragedy to be saddled with significant college debt when you didn't need to be. And so that's, I guess, the rationale behind it. For us, this is just now the policy is out there that we have to engage in educating kids about FAFSA. Again, we've done that for years anyway, and that's why we actually kind of got that award, because we were really pretty good about that, but just complying with law.
Any comment? Okay. We're good with that one.
And then the last item was special education. I think this is the one, Adam, you were alluding to about being inclusive of birth to 3. We're the only Connecticut district, to my knowledge, and I've asked several people this, and nobody could tell me another, that has a birth to 3 program embedded in it. It has been incredibly valuable. It's laborious and can require a little bit of space. It's not terribly space intensive, birth to 3 students that we service do not necessarily come to the school. We go to the home to provide these services, but we do need space for staffing and meeting space. But we are very inclusive of birth to 3 folks in the process. This is one of those situations where the law is written for the state and not for Cheshire, because we obviously do this already. But it was an adjustment to our policy, as required by law.
Yeah, I believe we had a pretty good conversation about
Yeah.
this at the last meeting.
I think
Yeah, I have no additional questions. Does anyone else have any further comment on this one?
the crazy thing is this is one that we just adopted in February of 2020 and had to modify it again because of the law, but I think it kind of covers the bases.
Yep. Okay. Does a policy 4118.11 for non-discrimination, that is something that we can consider
First
to be
reading.
moved to a first reading?
Yes.
Okay. All right, well then, I'll make a motion to move policy number 4118.11, personnel non-discrimination, to the Board of Education for a first reading. Do I have a second? Tim? Is there any discussion on that? Give Sam a second there. I see she's glitching. Just wanted to make sure. Okay. Hearing no discussion, all in favor? And Sam is frozen.
Aye.
Aye, there we go. Okay. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. And I'll make a motion to move policy number 1101.1, community relations parent involvement, 6146, instruction graduation requirements, 6146.1, instruction grading systems, 6148, instruction Fafsa Completion program, and policy number 6159, instruction individualized education program / special education program, to the Board of Education for a second reading. Do I have a second on that? Tim? Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, it is unanimous. Fantastic. Let's see, I have no other business on the agenda. Does anyone else have any business to come before policy? Seeing none, I would like to entertain a motion for adjournment. That's it. Do you so move? And Sam seconds. Fantastic. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
There's a
Have a good
screaming
night.
kid over here. I think mute is better.
Have a good night, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.